I know. Hello and welcome to Find Out Nation. I am one of your hosts, Jamie.
Oh, I'm one of your hosts, Nicole. Sorry.
That's quite all right. We do this every week. But hey, it's a long day.
Sometimes I'm a little slow on the update.
Well, and we have like a foot of snow outside and it's like sub-zero temperatures.
It's literally like 3 degrees outside. 2 degrees, excuse me. Yeah, 2 degrees outside. Yeah.
Right. And not to mention the fact that my kid got his day off school.
Mine did not.
And she sounds
Mine's
very bitter about this.
Very upset with her university that she had to walk to class in or maybe they might have actually got like 6 or 7 inches of snow last night.
They could have. I know, like ours, I mean, we had snow all damn day long. So
yeah. And her apartment is 15. I mean, she's still on campus technically, but she's a 15-minute walk in good weather.
So to your point, so it's a slow day is what we're saying.
It is. That's true.
It's a slow day. That's right. You're going to have to give us a break.
Hopefully I'll be better.
That's right.
I got some coffee. I'll get better.
Okay. I have like a quarter of a can of Diet Coke. So hopefully that lasts through this entire conversation. Okay. So we are here today to talk about Donald Trump and the state of the nation. We are how far into this presidency?
Into this administration? 29 days into the administration.
Wow. So yeah. Okay. 29 days. Almost a standard month. Almost, but not quite. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 622 from the midterms.
Oh, God. I feel like that number is not moving very fast.
I agree. I agree that it's not going down nearly fast. I feel like this other one is going much quicker. How many days we've been in this inauguration, and the other one is not going nearly fast enough.
No. 622, you say, until the midterms?
Yeah, until the midterms. Yeah.
Like I need to get in the 500s because then I will feel like we're at least, I mean, getting 622 somewhere? Seems like, yeah. If I'm in the 500s, I'll feel better. I feel like
I agree.
We'll see what happens.
I agree.
Although at this point, what the fuck does it matter? Like,
no, it feels like it's been 500 years since he was inaugurated, not 29 days.
That's exactly correct. Okay. Let's talk. The first topic that I want to address today are these federal layoffs. I've heard that it's so far 13,000-ish employees.
Something like that.
I know it's over 10,000. I think the latest that I saw today was 13,000. I'm hearing that any probationary worker is being fired, and all the reports that I have found have said that they have been fired for cause. So they've been reported, like every one of them, or at least the ones that I'm hearing about, are getting notified that it's for cause. So
yeah, which is bizarre to me.
I don't know if this is like their way of avoiding severance packages or what, but at least the examples that I'm hearing, it's crazy. And like there was one guy who I read his story on Facebook where like he had been a 13-year employee of the military. He now moved over and was a probationary employee at, where was it? Was it the National Park Service? Anyway, and they told him like, despite the fact that he had multiple good evaluations, multiple like praises from his boss, he still was told that it was performance reason that he got fired. And he's like, and this guy's like, please, Donald Trump, I voted for you. Make it right.
Oh, go fuck yourself. This feels very meta to me because Zuckerberg came out and announced Meta was doing massive layoffs like a week or two ago, and they were all performance based. And now those employees are coming out and saying, a year ago, I got like an exceeds expectations. And now all of a sudden I'm not exceeding expectations. And he's just cleaning house.
Yeah.
Of people that don't agree with him, don't agree with Trump, don't agree in the direction that Meta's going or whatever. And so I have a hard time believing that the same fucking morons that just fired a bunch of people that were in charge of our nuclear arsenal and didn't understand the people they were firing when they did it. And now they can't get a hold of them to be like, oh, we fucked up. Can you please come back? We don't have anybody that knows how to work on the warheads.
Yep.
Actually fired all of these people because they were on final written notice.
Right.
Like, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I understand that the federal government is a massive employer. And so I guess it could be possible that they've got thousands and thousands of employees that are on final written notice, I find it hard to believe.
I do too. I have been in corporate America for my entire life. I have managed people for the last decade. And I've been close to others that have managed people for years. I probably have dealt with 2,000 to 3,000 employees at any one specific time, right? Like my company is big enough that and I got to tell you, like the likelihood that 10% of those people are on a final written warning, give me a fucking break. Now, do I believe that probably some of these people that are getting fired should be? Yes, because I know that my company, when we lay people off, they come to us and they say, listen, you got to get rid of like 5 people. Who is it going to be? And of course, we always turn in the people that were like, these people don't do a great job, right?
Right. These are your low performers. Yeah.
That's right. So I get that, but that is not what it sounds like is happening here. And I can tell you that so my cousin works for National Park Services. She's terrified of what's happening, not only to her, but to everyone that she works with, her company, her department. It's crazy. And like now they're talking about IRS, like that's going to be the next place that they're cutting people during tax season.
Right. Which seems very intentional.
Yes.
Very intentional. And I just have a hard time believing that the group that wants us to believe that they are a bunch of tech bros that are coming in and rooting out fraud, that they have yet to give us any examples of this fraud and wasteful spending, are also the ones that are knowingly terminating employees that are on final written notice that are actually bad employees, because I think there is zero thought given to who they're firing. I think they're just most 100%. Of the time indiscriminately terminating people.
That's right. I think they're trying to look for the people that are, you're a probationary employee, let's just get rid of you, because they know they can without having to have cause, right?
That's right.
So that's exactly it. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. And I campaigned on reducing the overhead in the government.
Well, and the Trumpers in my life are posting things like, it's only going to hurt for the short term. This is leading to long-term benefits and long-term growth.
Tell me what those are.
Yeah, tell me what those are. That's exactly right. I don't understand what those are. I do know that
they're getting ready to cut Medicaid. So
that's right.
It's not.
That's right.
There is no long-term benefit to this.
That's exactly right. Like we already know that we're seeing issues with National Health Services, the CDC, to your point, just dealing with people who have lost jobs that have intricate knowledge of how a lot of these systems work. They're leaving and there's nobody there to manage these systems anymore. And some of them are kind of important, guys. Like we put the government FAA in charge of our most critical systems for a reason. Yes. And so if we privatize those, that's a problem. But it's because people who want to privatize those are people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Donald Trump. So,
okay. I mean, Musk has come out and said that, they terminated all those FAA people. And he's like, we can have SpaceX employees come in and do what those employees are doing for FAA. And that's the whole goal for him. That's part of why he's doing what he's doing.
Of course. Speaking of DOGE, of course, last week we just railed on DOGE and the 12-year-olds that are working there. This week, though, I'm struggling so much with the fact that we still don't have any proof from them. We have had no documents that have turned over of proof of fraud.
Listen.
Right. And then we have shit like Elon Musk coming out and saying, one of the programs that we cut with USAID were 50,000 condoms going to Africa. Really? Did you hear this?
Yes. Yeah. And I had to have a conversation with a family member and set them straight because the whole thing over the condoms. And I mean, I think you're a silly goose. I'm just going to say that because he had his press briefing inside the Oval Office, as all good presidents do. Right. And he stood there and he told the press that sometimes he's going to speak incorrectly. Bitch, you fucking lied.
Yes.
You said 50,000 condoms were being sent
I got that wrong. $50 million for Gaza
in
condoms. That's right.
Yes.
Sorry.
And that's not where they were sent. It was 50,000 condoms to Mozambique.
Exactly.
To combat the AIDS virus.
That's right.
That's the things that USAID does. USAID being shut down is hurting American farmers right now because they have contracts with USAID for additional crops to be sent to places like sub-Saharan Africa for starving children.
That's right.
And now that shit's just sitting in warehouses and at the docks going to waste.
That's all going to waste. That's exactly right. You have just food sitting in places going to waste. Farmers not getting paid because those contracts have now all been stopped. And all of that aid is now not getting to people that are fucking starving. And that exactly is what that program was designed to do, which maybe you just don't believe in it. That's fine. But I've got to believe that U.S. farmers have to feel that, right? Like I have to believe that U.S. farmers are waking up and realizing, oh shit,
maybe they're counting on that money.
Right.
Yeah. And then, but that whole press conference, girl,
I know, in the White House with his 4-year-old.
Yeah. Well, which is all just a fucking stunt, right? Like all of that's just a fucking stunt to make him look like a good father. But while Trump just sat there like a fucking chump behind the Resolute desk and says fuck all the entire time, that was a Musk press conference. What are we doing?
He was the one that spoke.
Yeah. And that's what was so interesting is I saw an interview, read an article. Don't know, doesn't matter. I think I read an article about the way that he was dressed. So everyone else, because there's clear dress code when you are in the White House, and especially if you're inside the Oval Office. It is suit and tie, it is a skirt, it is heels, it is all the things. And he's standing there in his fucking jeans and a t-shirt and a sport coat and his fucking MAGA hat. And there was someone that I read an article on the next day who said that there's somebody high up in politics. I don't remember now who it is, but they went to a fundraiser in California and it was their first time being around Hollywood elite, being around big money donors, this kind of thing. And the richest person in the room was the one who did not adhere to the dress code and very much dressed down. And they said they do that as a fuck you to everybody else in the room because they know they're the wealthiest person in the room.
That's right.
And
no one's going to send them home.
Everybody else knows that.
That's right. No one's going to send them home. In fact, at one point, Jon Stewart said that Elon Musk was tinting his fingers like a supervillain. I was like, that's accurate.
That's hilarious.
That's accurate.
That is but listening to him speak is infuriating to me because he's very much like random train of thought like Trump, but he tries to keep the train on the tracks a little bit better than Trump does. And I just want to be like, hurry the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, what are you saying? Like,
yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. And all those things that came out later about what the little kid was saying to Trump.
I know.
Telling Trump to, and then somebody else was like,
shut his mouth, shut his face.
Shut your fucking mouth. And you're not the president. But then somebody else was like, he was saying that over to somebody else standing next to Trump. And I'm like, does it really matter? We have a 4-year-old saying insane shit inside the Oval Office. Doesn't really make Musk look like a great parent. I mean, he's not wrong. But
we know who the real president is. He's not, whether he's talking to Trump or not, he's not wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And if his dad taught him one thing, it's not to lie. So, okay. I want to talk about the next thing that I have on my list is something that came out today. Trump is falsely claiming. So one of the big things on his campaign was ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. It was his big thing. Oh. He was gonna end it even while he was still running. He wasn't even have to become president.
Right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're at 30 days, so he finally decides it's important. And he comes out today.
He finally gets around to it.
And he comes out today and is like, hey, I told Ukraine they shouldn't have gotten into that war. It's Ukraine's fault.
I'm sorry. What? Roll the tape, fucker. We all have clear, vivid memories of Russia invading Crimea and invading Ukraine. What are you talking about? See, this is the gaslighting that they think they can just lie to people and people are just going to believe it. Like, And some people will fucking believe it because they're goddamn stupid. But I had not heard this. I'd heard that like he's trying to negotiate things without Ukraine sitting at the table.
Yes. And then today he said something about, I told Ukraine they shouldn't have gotten into that war, that it was a bad idea. And Seth Meyers, I think it was Seth Meyers, maybe it was Jordan Klepper, doesn't matter, was like, they were invaded. Like they didn't choose to go into war.
What the fuck are you
even to the point
about?
where like Donald Trump is blaming Zelensky and saying like it's his fault that they got into the war.
I know on the 4th, because I had written this down because I had to do some research because I didn't understand what it meant. But he had what I thought was another quid pro quo type conversation with Zelensky because he wanted to reach an agreement with Ukraine to gain access to the country's rare earth materials as a condition for continuing U.S. support in its war against Russia. I didn't know what a rare earth material was, so I had to look that shit up.
Yeah.
But I guess when he was speaking with reporters in the Oval after that conversation with Zelensky on the 4th, he complained that the U.S. had sent more in military and economic assistance to Ukraine than its EU partners, adding, we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things. I want to have security of rare earth. We're putting in hundreds of billions of dollars. They have great rare earth, and I want security of their rare earth, and they're willing to do it. Okay, who told the flaming idiot the phrase rare earth?
I don't know. But here's what he said today.
Because he doesn't know what it means.
Well, here's what he said about Zelensky. I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going well. But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it after 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal, Trump falsely claimed about Ukraine. Trump claimed he could have made the deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land and no people would have been killed. But they chose not to do it that way.
Well, oh my God. And he's the same idiot that right around the time of this rare earth thing, he came out and said that he thought that that Ukraine just needed to give up a little bit of land because Russia has lost a lot of soldiers. Right. Bitch, we lost a lot of soldiers in Vietnam. Do we now just get Saigon?
Right.
Is that how this fucking works? What are you talking about? Like, does Germany just get a section of Poland because they lost a lot of Nazis?
Right. Like, when they invaded them. Right.
Right. This is not how these things work.
Nope.
But this is also the same fucking idiot trying to just take over Gaza and root out the Palestinians and not allow them back on their homeland. So
and turn it into a Club Med for international tourists. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. As a Club Med, that's so true. That's a great way to put it.
It's just insane. It's just, these are the types of things. And to your point, it's this gaslighting that people believe. Like, I've got to know, Trumpers, you are there. You know, Russia invaded Ukraine.
We all watched it on TV.
We all watched it in real time. We all fucking went to Ukraine bakeries. We all had yellow and blue flags. We all, you were there. You watched it.
It's just like January 6th. We watched it live. You are willingly allowing yourself to be fucking gaslit into not correctly remembering what we all fucking witnessed together as a nation.
That's right. You have bought into a cult that you are actively believing in.
I remember when all that shit happened and Trump was railing about how inappropriate Zelensky was dressed when he was being interviewed on the news because he didn't have a suit and tie on. The man's in his fucking bunker. He's walking out among his troops who are trying to survive and keep the Russians at bay. He doesn't have time for a fucking suit and tie. So Trump fucking knows who started that goddamn war.
Oh, he does.
He just has to toe a line because it's Putin.
Trump's not stupid. He knows exactly who started the war. Like, Trump knows, but he also knows he can say whatever he wants and his people will just fucking blindly believe him. He is the David Koresh of goddamn politics.
God, what a great analogy. He really is.
He can say whatever he really wants. Is. And
yeah. And he knows that he's got to stay on the good side of Putin.
Oh, obviously. I mean, obviously. We know. So this is the other thing that I question. We know for a fact that Putin interfered with the 2020 election that got Trump elected the first time. Why have we not heard anything about this election and the Russian interference?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we know for a fact, we have Department of Justice proof. We know
that they helped in 16.
That's right. That Russia interfered with that 2020 election. And to your point with the 2016 election that he originally got that he originally
with
got
Hillary
voted
Clinton
in and tried to tamper with the 2020 election. Like we know that for a fact. Why are we not hearing anything there?
That we're not talking about it this time around? Yeah, we're just going to act like he got in on his own.
Right. And because as Democrats, we have to be like, we're the bigger people. So we can't falsely make claims that this election wasn't stolen. And I get it. Like we're trying to be virtuous. Like that's what we die from is virtuosity.
Right.
But every justifiable action is happening because, the American people voted him in. He won the popular vote this time. And yet we're still not having that conversation. That just fucks me up. Okay. Speaking of stuff that we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah. What?
We have now declared a Golf of America Day. Do you think that the obsession with golf is because Trump loves to play golf and he thinks that GULF and GOLF are the same thing?
Are the same thing.
Do you think that's why? Do you think like he thinks it's like a golf course? Okay. And that golf course
and not just a giant
Golf
puddle
of America?
It's a big water. What do they call that in golf? The water. It's not a water feature. What do they call that? Like when you know what I'm saying?
A water hazard. Like, it's like a
water hazard. Yes.
It's like a giant water hazard on a golf course. So if we call it Golf of America and it's the golf course, like, do we think that's what he thinks?
I wouldn't be shocked. I also don't. Okay. So first of all, I had not heard this. So I was unaware that we had a Golf of America Day. When is this day?
It was last Sunday. It was.
Oh, I missed it. I forgot.
Yeah, it was during the Super Bowl. So the day that they were flying to the Super Bowl, they were flying over the Gulf of America. And while they were flying over the Gulf of America, they were declaring it the
Trump
day.
Had an orgasm and declared it Gulf of America Day. Indeed. Is that what happened?
Okay, but this is really funny. He's like, I'm issuing a proclamation on the Gulf of America, and then he points to this like female intern is like, explain to them what a proclamation is. Like, sir, first of all, most of us don't need to know what a proclamation is. And
we get it. We know what it is.
Right. And second of all, does she need to explain it to you? Because you don't know what it is?
Because you don't know what it is. And
like, it was sus. It was super sus.
Like, all of us have been through a civics class. We know what a proclamation is.
Most of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I find it, I'm infuriated on two things for that. One, that taxpayer dollars went to bring him to the Super Bowl. He's the first president to ever be at a Super Bowl. And so taxpayer dollars paid for that. Where was DOGE in ridding government waste and spending on that?
Apparently that wasn't waste.
I guess not. Secondly, I find it interesting that the same group of people that can't seem to grasp what pronouns are or why we need pronouns or why anyone would use pronouns, his fucking press secretary is actively not allowing certain reporting agencies to have access to the press briefing room or the Oval Office when they're doing press briefings in there because they won't call it the Gulf of America. Right. So clearly, you don't have a problem calling something by a different name if that's what you want to do. You should be able to use someone's pronouns.
That's right. I feel
and
like
honor their wishes for that.
Right. I feel Gulf of America is woke. Like, that's too woke.
So woke.
I mean, where's the anti-woke movement that we're now identifying instead of the Gulf of Mexico, which we've been for hundreds of years, we're identifying as the Gulf of America and we're not willing to call him by that name? That's too woke. Like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
What are we doing?
And I read something that only 22 nautical miles off of the coast of Louisiana is actually the U.S.
American space. Yes.
Yeah. The rest of it is fucking
international
waters or it's Mexico's or it's whatever.
Right.
So the whole motherfucking thing can't be the Gulf of America.
Nope.
So why do we care? This is what we're worried about. I'm sorry. Yep. This is what we're worried about.
Well, this and then blaming Zelensky for the Ukraine war.
For Russia having, if Ukraine had just never decided that they needed to be a sovereign nation and they would have just let Putin's tanks roll on in there, like what, 3 or 4 years ago,
and just given them all of their land,
right?
Nobody
we wouldn't have to fucking worry. Exactly, nobody would have had to die. We wouldn't have to worry about any of this, and we could just go on about our day. So it is all Zelensky's fault, clearly, because he wanted to stand up and be like, "This is our fucking country." Exactly. Yeah. Because fucking Christ.
I know. It is wild times. These are wild times we live in.
I don't understand. Okay. But thank God we're getting rid of DEI.
Thank God. Thank God we're getting rid of DEI. And did you hear that someone actually brought a suit against Starbucks because they're not hiring enough straight white males?
Yes, I believe it is one of our lawmakers here in Missouri.
It is. It is. Okay, well, on that embarrassing note, it's not been a good week for Missouri. You know, after the Chiefs lost and this, it's not been a good week for Missouri. Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
Eric fucking Adams. Okay, Eric Adams, who I think it was Seth Meyers says proves Trump's lack of partisanship because he's willing to ignore lawlessness on both sides of the aisle. Like how giving of Trump to,
you know what? That's a really good way to look at it. That's right.
To cross the aisle and want to pardon a blue state lawmaker who's still rich but totally corrupt. And I want to, let's definitely.
Corrupt sees corrupt. It doesn't have it's colorblind.
Yes.
It is. It has no barriers.
That's right.
Like
it's almost DEI at this point.
It is almost DEI.
We're including everyone. It's inclusive.
Yes.
It's inclusive.
He sees a like-minded person and he's like, I see you, man. I see you and I got your back.
And you heard that 900 former Justice Department prosecutors came out and are saying how batshit crazy it is that we basically are letting Eric Adams just get away with all sorts of corruption.
Yeah. And the one judge that signed off on it did so because he is retiring in the next couple of months, and he did it to save the rest of his fellow coworkers, for lack of a better word. I don't know what you call your fellow prosecutors, from having to resign their positions because they all knew that they shouldn't have been doing it. And he said, fuck it, I'm retiring in a couple of months. I'll do it to save your guys' jobs. Because they put like 9 or 10 of them in a room and said, you have an hour. One of you figure out which one of you is going to do this.
John Dean, who was former President Richard Nixon's White House counsel.
Yeah.
Signed the letter. I mean, you've got to be like bad to get Richard Nixon's lawyer to sign the letter. Now, granted, he did testify against Nixon, but still, it's Richard Nixon's lawyer.
Yeah. This is so much worse than Nixon. Nixon went after a few specific people to try to save his own ass. Trump has done this on behalf of Eric Adams as a quid pro quo to help himself. Because Adams went to him and said, hey, if you want me to help with the immigration stuff, you got to get these charges dropped against me.
Yep.
Otherwise, I can't properly focus on your immigration policies in the state of New York. Because aren't they a sanctuary city?
I think they are. I think they're a sanctuary city.
Yeah. And Eric Adams, what a corrupt motherfucker. And you're going to get away with it. Like, he was accepting illegal campaign donations.
Hotel rides. From,
lavish travel
the King
perks.
of Dubai shit. I mean, it's like he literally actually signed up with the Nigerian prince that we've all been getting emails from. Like, he's the one that responded to the email and won all the stuff. So yeah, good for him.
Yeah, it's insane.
8 other prosecutors resigned in protest. Like, that's insane. Like,
and that's what we want our prosecutors to do. Like, you don't put, the fucking law. You swore an oath to the Constitution. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
And he's going to get away with it anyway.
Of course he is. And it's all, to your point, quid pro quo. It's all, and okay, we're going to drop the case and not have to worry about it anymore. It's absolutely fucking insane.
And this, can I read this quote really quick that I found? So Hagen Scotton was an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. He was working on the case against Adams, and he was one of the last ones that resigned on that Thursday night when a bunch of them were resigning. So he wrote to Beauvais, who is Eric Adams's, he's a current U.S. Department deputy AG and was Trump's personal attorney. Beauvais was. So Scotton, in his resignation letter, wrote to Beauvais, any assistant U.S. attorney would know that our laws and traditions do not allow using the prosecutorial power to influence other citizens, much less elected officials, in this way. If no lawyer within earshot of the president is willing to give him that advice, then I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me.
Good for him.
Yeah, like, wow. And he's a Harvard Law grad and a decorated war veteran.
Good for him.
The first one that stepped down, I don't remember her name, was a Trump appointee, I believe, to the bench.
Was it really?
I think so. Or she clerked for like a couple of the Republican Supreme Court justices. Like, she's a Republican. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she still said, we can't do this.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Well, it's admirable, because here's my thing. You know, you think that it's all just right versus left.
Yeah.
But I know, I know that there is a country first mentality. And to see these people who actually give their lives to their country.
Yeah.
You can't just dangle politics over their heads and expect them to go back on the ideals that they find so. I mean, these people bleed red, white, and blue.
Right.
For you to like overthrow the system. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're going from the super like serious and unbelievable to the absolutely crazy. Trump's the new chairman of the Kennedy Center.
Oh, goddamn.
Of all my life, this is the thing I never thought I
saw coming.
I never would have seen coming.
The man's never set foot in the building.
Cares not at all. Like, he doesn't even read. Like, what in the world? You are not cultured. Yeah. You don't care about art. Did he even get a presidential portrait done? I can't remember. Regardless, you care not at all about anything, any of this.
Yeah.
Are you serious right now that you are going to fire the Center's president and then name yourself the new chairman?
Yeah. And they purged 18 Democratic appointees that were on the board prior to the vote. So there are new members, some of the new members, Usha Vance.
Oh, of course.
Susie Wiles, who was his campaign advisor, and a bunch of other Trump supporters took those 18 spots. He has boasted in the past about never attending a performance there and skipped the 2018 honors when he was president the first time, which most presidents attend when they're president. Because the honorees for that year had been critical of his leadership in politics, so he didn't attend. But now it's like a mass exodus. There's performers that are canceling their sold out shows.
Good.
What else did I see? Ben Folds from Ben Folds 5. He, where did the rest of my article go? Sorry, hold on. Cause he was something with, hold on. I got to find this because he was like a guest. Oh, he's the artistic advisor to the National Symphony Orchestra. And he said, deuces, Shonda Rhimes resigned from her position as the treasurer. Like,
that's weird that Shonda Rhimes was the treasurer.
The treasurer?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said that he wanted to chair the center because they don't need wokeness and that some of the shows were an absolute terrible disgrace. How do you know? You've never been there.
His press secretary said they're the most recent people to find out that when you go woke, you go broke.
Oh,
and I read something today that a quarter of shoppers are making decisions about where they're shopping based on companies' policies, like specifically their political and DEI policies.
Really? Yeah.
Yes. A quarter of shoppers. Now, I realize it's only a quarter, but still, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
25% of all shoppers are choosing not to shop at certain places. Like
at
I
certain
do.
places.
I'm one of those.
I was going to say, you
we
and I
do
have
not
talked
go to
about that
Chick-fil-A.
before.
We do not go to Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby.
And absolutely not. Neither of those.
Yeah. And I'm real upset about Target rolling back their DEI
at a store this week. And I really consider going to Walmart over Target.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm upset because Target's rolled back their DEI. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And they campaigned to a lot of the Republican people this past time. But I'm like, so did Walmart. So then where do I go? Like, I don't, you know what I mean?
Well,
so sometimes you can't get away from it.
I appreciated the fact that at least on Target's website, they are like, we're still committed to hiring and including people and da. And I appreciate it as well, although we'll see what happens during Pride Month, that for Black History Month, they put out a whole section of like Black history stuff.
Black artists and all that stuff.
I really appreciated. Again, we'll see what happens in Pride Month and what happens next year and the next year now that they're right.
Yeah, I'm pissed about Google and their calendar.
I'm pissed about Google and their maps and the Gulf of Stupid America. Seth Meyer said, we've got to abandon the hope that the tech bros are going to save us. And I'm like, no shit.
Yeah, no, they're not. Yeah.
So besides Trump taking over the Kennedy Center, the Kennedy Presidential Library had to shut down because so many employees were fired.
Those probationary employees again. And I mean, it's his presidential library. Like, did anybody call the director of MAHA and ask him how he felt about his uncle's presidential library having to be shut down?
Right. I'm like, really?
I don't.
And yes. So
and yesterday was President's Day. So I'm sure, did the library close down yesterday or today? Doesn't matter. Because like yesterday, even though it was President's Day, Truman's home and all that stuff was open for tours because it was President's Day. Like,
right. Yes. So those are the crazies that I have. What else do you have on your list this week?
Oh my God, I don't even know. I wrote down about the SAVE Act, which has been reintroduced in the House, which they so it is Chip, right? Isn't that his name? Chip Roy of fucking Texas. Yeah. He introduced it in May of last year and then reintroduced it again just like last week. And so the SAVE Act is a House bill that's requiring voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship when registering or re-registering to vote. So it supposedly aims to restrict non-citizen voting, which we all know is exceptionally rare and extremely illegal already. But here's the bigger issue with it. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, 9% of Americans, so 21 million people of voting age, do not have proof of citizenship readily available. Their birth certificate, a marriage certificate, passport, that kind of stuff, because they don't want a driver's license. Driver's license is not going to get you the ability to vote.
I was going to ask what a real ID, because with the real ID, you have to go through, I think you have
the extra stuff.
Yeah, it's like a passport. And so like Missouri's switching to a real ID.
You would be able to present a real ID compliant ID that indicates U.S. citizenship, but there's only like a few handful of states that have a real ID.
I know. Missouri has one, I know, because it was going to be a requirement to travel. But you know what I would be interested to know is obviously poor people struggle with getting things like their passports, birth certificates, things like that. I have
and passports are super expensive now.
That's right. I have a passport. I have a real ID. You have,
me too.
I think both, right?
We all three do. Yeah, we all three have real IDs and passports.
So I'm curious what the demographic breakdown would be of people. How bad?
This is why we're doing it, right?
Well,
this is another way to disenfranchise.
I'm fairly certain we're making assumptions here. Because at the end of the day, every Democrat I know has a passport. Everyone. Because they are international travelers and they like to, you know, they explore stuff and they have access to things like that. But of course, all the Democrats I know are middle class. We're all middle class.
Right.
I'm really curious if you really go out into the poorer classes. Like, I think we make assumptions that they don't have access to these documents. This might backfire for them.
It might, but I think too, for me, I see this as a way, I think the Republicans are doing it as a way to disenfranchise people that they think of lower classes who would be more likely to vote Democratic than to vote Republican.
That's what I'm saying.
They are making assumptions that they don't have these documents. And I think it's an easy way to disenfranchise women, right? Because your birth certificate
is different.
Is not going to have your married name on it.
That's right. So to your point, this is exactly what I'm saying is, are they making a bunch of assumptions that poor Democratic voters don't have these things and that it's not all poor Republican voters that don't have these things?
That don't
you know
have
what I'm
these
saying?
Things. Yeah.
So I'll be honest, like the SAVE Act is absolutely fucking asinine to me. Making voting harder for people is insane. With that said, I know that at least for my very insulated community, the only ones that have passports readily available at all times are my Democratic friends. And I'm like pretty sure that none of my Republican friends or families have valid passports or birth certificates.
And now it's going to be damn near hard to get one because we're laying off everybody.
Of course.
So the time frame to get one
years for that shit to be.
And it's almost $200 to get a passport now. But there's 5 states that have real IDs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you hit the nail exactly on the head. Passports aren't cheap. They cost money. Even real IDs are more expensive. They cost money. Getting a copy of your passport, your birth certificate. If you don't already have a copy, it costs money.
Yep.
And so, like, and you're more likely if you live in a city to have access to those things. Rural America does not have access to that stuff as easily. So again, are you making assumptions that this is going to help the Republican Party when at the end of the day, you might be fucking yourself?
Well, and if you think about like young people, right, that live in a different state than their parents, they're already registered to vote in the state they live in, but now it's time to re-register and now you need your birth certificate. Well, fuck, now you got to call your mom. Now you got to hope it doesn't get lost in the mail. And now you got to do all these things. Like, then people are just like, fuck it, I'm not going to vote. And it also makes it harder because Democrats are known to do get out the vote drives. Yeah. Well, it's a lot harder to do a get out the vote drive to register people to vote when you got to have all these fucking documents that people are not always just going to have at their house. I've had copies of our birth certificates for years. So I made sure when he started running again that our passports were not expiring within the next 5 years because I was going to renew them. You know what I mean?
To your point, are we going to really isolate the middle of the road voters that don't care that much to have like a real opinion? Because I know
who have enough privilege to feel like the president doesn't affect me day to day.
Right. So that's my point is like, as much as I like, yes, the SAVE Act is complete nutter. Like they're intentionally doing it with the intention of fucking over poor Americans that don't have access to passports, who can't afford them, don't have access to their documents, and are particularly targeting women. 100% agree. But at the end of the day, is it actually going to end up hurting them more than they realize it's going to?
Than they realize? Yeah.
So that's my feeling on the SAVE Act.
Well, they can prey on it inside the new White House Faith Office.
Okay, let's talk about the White House Faith Office.
Girl, what the absolute fuck are we doing?
All right. I have to ask, how does your mind make the leap between separation of church and state to a faith office? How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, and you direct your attorney general to lead a task force on eradicating what you call anti-Christian bias within the federal government.
Right. What anti-Christian bias?
This is the boogeyman that evangelicals have made up for themselves to make themselves victims, because they love to be fucking victims and martyrs. And this is what they've done is, oh my God, I can't even be a fucking Christian in this country because people just hate Christians. Bitch, no. I don't give a shit if you're a Christian. I want you to act like a fucking Christian.
Exactly.
You want to tell everybody else how to live their life, and you're over here like, deport the Mexicans.
That's right. That's right.
Like,
if Jesus came right now,
oh my God,
they would absolutely fucking boo him off a stage.
Yes.
You know, you have people who like people that talk charity, love thy neighbor, love each other, don't judge each other, cast the first stone, who took care of Mary Magdalene and the prostitute, you know, like scrubbed other people's feet. So there's a great SNL about how this guy is like, I can talk to Jesus. Jesus is coming to talk to me. And someone appears and he's like, okay, give away all your wealth. And they're like, holy shit, the house is haunted. This isn't Jesus. It's a ghost. It's a demon. Everybody run. Like, that is literally the response, right? Like, that is literally what would happen.
Yeah. Well, and it kills me because he vowed his attorney general would work to, quote, fully prosecute anti-Christian violence and vandalism in our society and move heaven and earth to defend the rights of Christians and religious believers nationwide. We don't have anti-Christian violence in this country. That is not a fucking thing that exists.
Yeah. Tell me where that is. I need to see proof that is, again, we're gaslighting people into believing that there's a problem here. Tell me what this is.
When a white supremacist walks into a black AME church and shoots them up, it is because he's a fucking racist, not because he's anti-Christian.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And these, like, when you drive a truck through a BLM protest, that's is pure racism. That is not that there's no conversation of religion at all in any of those scenarios. And when you sit down with people and have conversations, you know, you sit down with the Unabomber and you sit down with these acts of terrorists, and you say, what is this for? The only thing that you could tie to some type of religion is maybe 9/11, maybe. And that's even a stretch. And that wasn't terrorism. That happened that wasn't Americans causing that.
Right. That's right.
And so are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah. I mean, and he said when he made these announcements, because he signed an executive order to establish the task force to root out all this anti-Christian violence in our country that we don't have, he was pressed by the reporters for specific examples of anti-Christian bias. He didn't have any, but he claimed that the Biden administration used the federal government to target Christians specifically without any kind of proof. But Biden's administration announced a strategy in December for countering anti-Muslim and anti-Arab bigotry, which was a similar plan to fight anti-Semitism in September of 23. So that's where this comes from. Is we're not going to give, you know, all these other people and religions some kind of protection, and not our dear Christians that voted for me.
That's right.
And he says, if we didn't have religious liberty, we don't have a free country. Bitch, you do have religious liberty.
That's right.
And you're not a Christian.
That's right. So one of the examples that he gave was this woman who was praying in front of he says she was praying in front of an abortion clinic. She was arrested for blocking access to an abortion clinic.
To an abortion clinic. That's right.
And she went to jail for 2 years for it because she continued to do it. Like, give me a fucking break. She wasn't just
that's
praying.
Not anti-Christian bias.
She was breaking a law.
That's right.
So now if I say like, oh, my Christian religion requires that I burn down a house, does that mean that I am allowed now to burn down a house?
I'm now immune from any kind of prosecution?
Right, because otherwise you're not letting me like fulfill my religion and what like Jesus saw, you know, whatever. I'm doing the same thing. What? Like, what's the problem?
Didn't Jesus send somebody into the temple to, oh my God, my religious friends are going to kill me because I'm going to butcher the fuck out of this story. Something with the change makers and the gold inside the temple and all the things. And like, you let, like, yeah. So, okay, can I just go do whatever I want and I don't have, the laws don't apply to me now? Because I'm going to cite my religion?
Because I can just claim religious freedom. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, especially, and we know this where we are seeing like, anyway, I'm not going down the rabbit hole. The fact is like, I still don't understand. So if you want to create this like fake ass group because you need to give one of your former advisors a place on your staff and, you know, DOGE hasn't attacked them yet, apparently, whatever. Yeah. But if you're using this as your ability to, number one, pardon a whole bunch of people that are, and take away our rights to access things like abortion clinics, that's a fucking problem. That's a problem. Yes. And the fact that, again, we can make this leap of separation of church and state and not recognize this as a clear violation. And the fact that like we're not hearing a bunch of judges and lawmakers saying something about
from the rooftops?
Fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Is just insane to me.
But these are the same people who are like, yeah, we need to bring religion back into our schools. We need to have Bibles put back in our schools, and the 10 Commandments need to be back in our public schools. No, they fucking don't. No. That's what your religious private school is for if you want to choose to pay to send your child to a private religious school.
That's right.
There is no place for that in the public school system.
That's exactly right. Okay, speaking of the public school system.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of the Department of Education. The Federal Department of Education.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, because who needs it? It's fucking overrated. It?
And what's funny about this is we're using, like, Trumpers believe that the Department of Education is the one that, like, institutes curriculums, decides on what is taught, that they're the ones that are, like, demanding that we teach critical race theory, like, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell them? Like, sir.
A quick Google search would really do wonders for your life.
States. Like, I sent out, because I try not to be super, like, no, I don't. I'm super political on Facebook, but I try sometimes to get everybody's, like, opinions. So I said, hey, I'm not a teacher. I'm not an expert. Tell me what you interpret the biggest impacts of the Department of Education going away. It was heartbreaking because it was all my friends that have special needs kids. And they're like, my programs will go away. Yep. Most of the other things, like your day-to-day, whatever, probably aren't going to be hugely different. Will there be things like vouchers for people if they want to, whatever? Yes. Will we likely see increase in things like property tax? Oh, excuse me. Personal property taxes and things like that. Yes, we'll see those.
And the whole school choice thing, which is such bullshit. Yeah.
But the biggest issue will be that the programs that are created and funded by the federal government to help like needy students are going to be the ones that go away.
And the kids that are on IEPs.
Which that's my kid.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a reason why we have that.
Yep.
Because,
Now, I'll be honest. My kid goes to an amazing school in an amazing school district. I love the North Kansas City School District. In fact, you know, it's snowing out. We already got the message school's canceled tomorrow because my kid's school district I love them. So do I believe that if I go to and I have worked with my teachers, his teachers, he's dyslexic. For anyone that doesn't know, AJ's dyslexic. And so I've talked to all of his teachers about like enabling him to be able to do speech to text and, you know, be able to look up extra words or have extra times and tests and things like that. But those are all things that are protected on his IEP. And the nice thing about it is that not only follows him to high school, but it will also follow him to college. Yes. And that is like, there's no chance that is going to continue if some of these federal programs.
And this is where, not to be the heathen that I am, but to circle back around to our religious faith office.
Yep.
This is where you can't tell me you're a Christian when you can't have empathy for people who are not like you. I did not have a child that needed an IEP. I cannot imagine how hard that is, because there's hoops you have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
There's testing. There's things you have to go through in order to get your child approved for an IEP.
That's right. Because all that costs money. That's the other thing. Yes. Is like, yes, there is some testing available that doesn't. But for the most part, like, we had to make sure that we took AJ, even just to see his doctor. And then we took him to an auditory specialist and a speech specialist because he had to get diagnosed. And then we took those into the school and presented them to the school. Yeah. It's insane. So it's insane.
The fact that people whose own children maybe didn't have the same struggles as other children who need these programs, who will benefit from these programs, are like, fuck you. My kid didn't need it, so you can figure out a way around it.
That's right. And this is the fuck around and find out generation. Yes. This is what's happening, right? Is that, and I've even seen it firsthand, where I saw a Trumper who, love Trump. And then when their state, the state of Missouri, cut one of the programs that they were on for their special needs child, all of a sudden it was like, I can't believe my state did this. Okay, well, what do you think Trump's doing right now? What do you think he's doing right now? And I'm anxious to see how this impacts her.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing for people who are like, I don't want my tax dollars to go to school lunches because I don't have a child in school, or because I pay for my child's. Not every parent can pay for a hot lunch, and every child deserves to eat a hot lunch.
Yes.
At least one hot meal a day at school.
Once a day.
I'd be fine with breakfast too. Fuck.
Yes.
Like,
me too.
I think we as a society I shouldn't say we as a society, but I think there's a large swath of us in this society who have lost sight of the fact that we have made education the enemy, and especially higher education.
Yep.
And because kids that go on to higher education typically become critical thinkers.
Yep.
They become more empathetic. They are around people that they maybe types of people that they never grew up around, when they were younger.
Sure.
They're taught to think differently, to look at things differently. And so then they potentially come out and they're like, my parents are kind of fucked up. Like the way you know what I mean? And that scares the shit out of people. And so now education's become the enemy. And so we don't want people to read. We don't want people to have access to anything they can get their hands on in a library, because now books are the enemy. And so now we're going to just shut down the whole Department of Education. Like, it's fucking bananas to me that this is where we are headed as a society.
Well, it also goes to show that it feels very much that there is one group of people who don't understand the point of living in a society. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand social contracts. They don't understand societal laws. They just have abandoned all understanding of the point of us living in a society. We live as a community for a reason, because of the benefits that it provides the community.
That it provides the whole community.
That's right. And we've just completely lost sight of that. Anyway, so yes, Department of Education going away, IRS layoffs tomorrow. Trump is running the Kennedy Center. It is mass fucking chaos. With that said, you promised us a good story of the week.
I do. And I promise that next time it won't have anything to do with politics, but this just made my little heart happy.
Okay.
And so even though it is political in nature, I have to share it.
Okay.
So NPR reported last week that during a pro-Trump rally in DC in December of 2020, members of the Proud Boys violently tore down and destroyed a Black Lives Matter sign in front of a church. I said on Monday, so I think I had this like last week, whatever. A DC Superior Court judge ordered that all interests in the Proud Boys International's trademarked name, Proud Boys, be given to the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church. No one can sell, transfer, license, or dispose of the Proud Boys trademarked name without permission from the church or the court, according to the judgment. The order is a victory for the church after it asked the court to enforce a default judgment of $2.8 million in damages, and said it was entitled to all of PBI's interests in the Proud Boys trademark, and they have a lien on that trademark. So for the first time in our nation's history, a Black institution owns property of a white supremacist group.
Ah.
And this church is like historic. They trace their origins back to 1838. They are on the National Register of Historic Places. They've hosted many prominent leaders, including activists Ida B. Wells and Booker T. Washington. Frederick Douglass was a worshiper there.
Holy shitballs.
Like,
that's awesome.
Yes.
What would you do if you ran a black church and you owned all the product
for the Proud Boys?
What would you do? Like, I would definitely make t-shirts that are like, anyone with this symbol is a jackass, or, I totally would go.
Or like a big circle with like, the slash through it and like now owned by AME. Like,
if you see this symbol, it means the person has chlamydia. Stay away from them. Like, I would definitely like take advantage. Or like, this is the new symbol for the LGBTQ community. Like, have at it. Yes.
Like, has anybody contacted Stuart Rhodes? I'm just wondering how old Eye Patch is feeling about losing their namesake, their trademark, all the fucking things because of the destruction that they did to this church.
And you hope that these people already have a bunch of gear with it on that, so that then you can use that really.
They're in violation of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, it just made my little heart happy that
I know that was a good
black
one. That's a good one
AME church
Good
now
job.
owns the stuff on from a white supremacist group. I just think that's fucking fabulous.
A terrorist organization. That's exactly
literally.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now that we have the office that's going to prevent like Christian whatever, they can go investigate the Proud Boys, because obviously they need
the faith office. Yeah. I mean, I think so.
Office.
Yeah.
This is what they can do. Good for them.
That's true.
Okay. Well, on that note, I'm going to try and not, jump off a building this week.
I know, right?
If it gets any crazier,
I have a feeling
we might have to revisit this. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more next week about Maha. Because of the crazy shit that he's been saying this
I do
week.
want to get back into some of the cabinet conversations and nominations. We have those to talk through. And I'm sure DOGE will find all sorts of things with the IRS. So it'll be interesting.
They're just going to be there rooting out all the fraud.
That's right. So next week should be interesting. So please tune in, like and subscribe to this channel, share it with all your friends, especially those that you really want to piss off, because that's who we enjoy talking to. And if you guys have any comments, feel free to leave them below.
That's right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.